which will never be severed.
Everlasting.
No, ghaira majzoos means which will never be cut or severed. That means everlasting, of course. And that is not said of hell. So although up to that part, the description is about the same, this appendix makes a very positive distinction between hell and heaven's durability, how long they would last.
Does this mean that hell will not last forever?
Of course it does mean that.
In that case, one would think that supposing somebody is in hell, he would be given a chance like we have in this. I mean, somebody may make a mistake in the earlier part of his life, and towards the end of his life he may make amends. Does that mean to say that somebody can also make amends while in hell, and thus promote himself to heaven?
Well, making amends is to be further elaborated before I begin to answer. You know, if let's conceive hell to be something like a penitentiary, where you are not only punished for the purpose of punishing, but for the purpose of reform. So there you can repent, all right, but you cannot undo the things you have done in the past, and you are not given a choice to repeat them anyway. So the whole situation is not covered by the word you are using. Somebody is taken for some illness to a hospital. That illness was his own doing. It was brought upon himself by ignoring some laws of nature, so it was a sort of folly for which he was punished. Let's conceive that sort of situation. And he is removed to a hospital. Now he can repent, all right. He can cooperate with the treatment and the medical care, but he will not be permitted to repeat that mistake anyway. So no question of reforming there in the hospital. But once he gets out of the hospital, then would be the real test, whether he repeats that or not. In case of hell, it will not happen, because out of hell will not be out of hell and into another trial, but out of hell he would be removed within a reasonable time to heaven. And from heaven there is no going back. So the whole situation is to be studied in this perspective.
It's a good thing for those people who've done a lot of harm, because they say, take care, after some time you'll come to heaven anyway.
But what is some time? You see, when you do something wrong, I mean physically wrong, and you fall ill, then you realize how time passes. And here normally the punishment is of shorter duration than the folly is committed. But if it is of a much longer duration, how can you imagine the time would pass? The time in ease passes so quickly. The time in difficulty and trial seems to have lost pace altogether. Sometimes it seems stationary. So this is why you have read so much about Hijr ki Raat, the night of separation. It never ends. And even 1,000 nights of meeting the beloved fly past as if nothing had happened, you know. So that sort of psychological attitude would decide the nature of the punishment as compared to the nature of heaven. Heaven would seem to pass much rapidly, of course, but because it would be never ending, and it had to be like that, otherwise heaven would be much shorter than hell. In reality, in our perspective, if heaven and hell are of the same duration, this is exactly what's going to happen. The people of heaven would think that the other day we came into heaven and now we are terminated. And the people of hell would think that they are everlasting. So when everlasting is said about the heaven, about the hell, it may imply that they would feel that the punishment is everlasting. It never comes to an end. When it is implied, in case of the heavenly people, it's the greatest compliment to the longevity of heaven. If the heavenly people think it's everlasting, then it must be everlasting, because even in the ultimate pleasure, they feel it's never ending. So they should be studied in these two relative perspectives.
There are 6 questions sent from ladies' side.
Good.
I think they have been sent by a lady visitor who I presume has accompanied one Ahmadi lady here.
Yes, in fact, I myself, during my interview with her, encouraged her to ask her questions here. And I suggested that if she was a bit shy, Normally you don't meet such coiners in the Western world. But this lady was particularly very quiet and quiet type. So she hesitated perhaps to ask questions directly. So I said, you better write the questions and send to the Imam Sahib, he would represent you.
So the first question relates...
But have you asked permission of Saki Sahib to take over this representation from him?
From him or from her?
No, from him. You mean her? Yes. Please.
The first question relates a situation in which a Muslim friend has rejected his faith due to Western influence. Is it sinful if the friend is male and a female Muslim friend helps reconvert him?
No, not at all. It's most welcome, provided that she doesn't cross the limits and fall over to that category where in practice she abandons Islam, if not in theory. Provided that is guarded, then it's most welcome. Many lady in the history of Islam has guided men to truth and rectified their ways and reformed them. So it's a most welcome act of piety. Please.
The second question is, are prayers accepted in part Arabic and part English if it is all that is known?
Of course. In Islam is so grand-hearted about these things that what is required is a genuine effort, and in the process of that effort, even if you have achieved very little, it would be accepted as if it is the whole. So those who get converted to Islam, if they are making a genuine effort to learn the prayers and things, and in that process, of course it's impossible for them to learn everything on the very first day, in the very first moment, and they can't wait for the prayers to be said later on, So whatever they learn will be accepted not as a partial offering but as a total offering. That is the grace of Islam. So if she knows the prayer partly in Arabic and partly in English, most welcome to God, because Allah knows English very well.
Third question of the same lady is it possible to marry another Muslim from a different sect of Islam?
Is it possible
to marry another Muslim from a different sect of Islam?
If she has become an Ahmadi, Hazrat Masih Maud has not permitted it. Now there are two aspects of this question. Number one, the law of Islam. The law of Islam will not be violated if an Ahmadi Muslim girl marries a non-Ahmadi Muslim husband, with the result that her children would be legitimate children if they are born of such marriage. But if the law of Islam is violated in marriages, then the whole system goes wrong, and the children are considered to be legitimate and they do not inherit each other. The mutual rights are not established because the marriage according to the law of Islam is null and void.